buddies and pals and friends. This is Ghost Emoji with your friendly neighborhood Becca and Taylor.
Hi.
And today we are going to be doing a review of Annabelle Creation. That's what we're doing.
We just saw it last night in the big theater.
Comfy chairs.
Yeah.
Snuck in some water and candy.
Yeah, because it's just so expensive just to see the movie. They've got to understand.
I don't care if they don't understand. I don't give a shit.
I take it all with me so that way, I don't leave my trash in the theater so no one gets in trouble, but I'm sorry, when they've got Mike and Ike's at Walgreens for 89 cents.
And they look identical, so it's not even like...
They taste identical?
They can tell. Yes, that also.
Looks like a Mike, tastes like an Ike. It's a Mike and Ike.
I meant more the box, but yes, that also.
I like getting the box because then, you don't have the crinkly bag.
Yeah.
It just feels better.
Anyways, what were your initial feelings about Annabelle?
When it was over, I really liked it. It's an imperfect movie, but most of the stuff that I didn't like about it is kind of your normal horror movie fare. Weird pacing at times, kind of strained, explanations that felt kind of shoddy. Just a couple of times. A handful of times. 2 handfuls of times that the people in the movie were just doing stuff that was so dumb. I know we have to do the scary stuff or it's not going to be a scary movie, but why are you doing this?
Yep.
Kind of thing. But overall, I thought they used a lot of practical effects, which I liked, so there wasn't as much, goofy CGI. I'm sure, they have to touch stuff up, but I was kind of excited about that. And just, I'm not a huge fan of jump scares and stuff like that, but they did have a lot of times where you thought something was going to happen, and so you kind of scare yourself, and then nothing would happen. And so it just kind of kept teasing it up, like a Southern Belle's giant hair, just super big and full of scares.
Very full.
So much teasing.
So much backcombing and teasing.
But that was kind of my overall thing. We'll get more into the parts I thought were kind of goofy, but I really liked it, and I would say I like this one better than regular Annabelle, OG Annabelle.
Yeah, I feel basically the same way. I thought this one, all of the kids and young adult actors in it were really good. It was a mostly female cast, which I thought was neat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it was really good. It was, again, like we talked about last night, and you just said, there were some definite horror movie tropes where you're sort of oh man. But I don't expect horror movies to really be artistry or anything, so when they're not crap, it's impressive.
Well, especially when it's the prequel of a prequel inside of a growing horror movie universe, the Wan universe, putting all his stuff together. I was surprised and happy that I liked it as much as I did, given.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if we want to do kind of a general, just a little a synopsis of it, kind of say what all happens. Obviously there's going to be spoilers for it, so if you haven't seen it yet, you're about to be spoiled. It starts off with the Mullenses. The Mullenses. It's a family in the 1940s. It's Eustace and Samuel are the mom and the dad, and they've got a daughter named Bee, which is, I guess, short for Annabelle, which they don't really make obvious until midway through the movie, but it starts off with them. They're doll makers, so of course it opens up with him making these old-time dolls that I just have a really hard time believing people ever thought they were cute or pretty, because I just feel they're inherently creepy looking, especially Annabelle. The doll, I guess it's supposed to be modeled after their daughter Annabelle, which they never expressly say, but they look kind of similar, and she's called Annabelle, so it shows them kind of hanging out and playing hide and seek and leaving notes and stuff like that, and establishing that this is a happy, cute family in Idaho in the 1940s. And then they are coming out of church the next day. I guess on the way back, it cuts from the church scene to them on the side of the road trying to change a tire, and stuff goes to shit.
Dead baby.
Yeah. He's changing the tire, and there's a car that's coming, and the wife's like, oh, should I flag him down? He's like, nah, I got this, don't worry about it. And he's spinning the little wrench thing, and a little...
like a bolt?
Yeah, like a little bolt kind of flies off, and Annabelle runs into the street being like, oh, I'll get it. And luckily they cut away pretty fast, but there's like an old T-model kind of car, like going super fast. Faster than Becca ever thought an oldie time car could ever go.
I was like, I don't know if they could go that fast in the 40s. I'm going to look that up, actually, now that we're doing this.
Full tilt, how fast can car go in 40s? We're here to make sure that you get the most accurate old car info.
It actually looked more like a 1930s car, to be totally honest. Because you know how people keep their cars for a million years.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Someone says depends on the car. Domestic American car or international Italian.
This is an old Idaho farm town, so my guess is probably domestic.
Yeah, it says basic family car built by Ford. Could go anywhere from 70 to 115.
Okay, so definitely fast enough to run over a child and kill them.
Definitely.
Either way, Annabelle is killed, and then it cuts to 12 years later. There's like a little sad cross on the side of the road that says B, and a old like bus drives past it, a bus full of orphans, and a nun, and the father, who I guess had worked at their previous orphanage. And there's kind of like some exposition, a little bit sloppy, but not too bad, basically explaining that the Mullins have agreed to take in these people. I guess their previous orphanage had been shuttered, and they were going to basically all be split up unless they found someone who could take them in. And so the Mullins have decided to take in these girls. There's 6 girls, and the 2 that we see the most are the main girl, Janice, and then her best friend is Linda, who Linda's played by Lulu Wilson, and Janice is played by Talitha Bateman. So I feel like last time we kind of went over like who was in it, but we didn't do a good job of that this time. Whoops-a-doodle.
Oops.
So there's a handful of kids, and they're getting closer, and they're talking about, I wish we were getting adopted instead of going to this new place. And then, if we get adopted, we have to get adopted together, because they're basically like sisters, but they want to be like real sisters. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's kind of difficult to write like relationships between kids, because I also am just like, do I remember what it's like to be that age? Like, is this how I would talk to my friends in this kind of cheesy way? Like, one day we'll be real sisters, and then like pinky swear and show our dolls to each other.
Yeah, the early stuff with them, I was sort of like, this is not how little kids behave. I mean, maybe little kids in the 30s and 40s. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. But later in the movie, like when they're on the couch and Janice is like, do you remember that time? And she's like, nothing's gonna change like what we went through together. I was like, that's pretty, like, I felt like that was pretty real. Like when they were, kind of making fun of something and talking about whatever. I was like, that felt like genuine. But the early stuff definitely, like you said, was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
A little ham-fisted. It's like, okay.
Anyway, they pull up, and you're like, oh, this is the house of the people from before. And you kind of, I guess you get the feeling like it's kind of weird, I guess, that they would be taking in these people, and they've got this, dead daughter, and the dad, Samuel Mullins, like, comes out to greet them, and of course they're all, like, very excited, and he's, like, the flattest character ever. He's just sad dad. There is pretty much nothing else to him. He has a lot of potential, but this just starts his reign as stoic dad.
A little scary, because he just doesn't talk.
Yep. It made it really hard to be attached to him. Like, you feel terrible, because you're like, his daughter died that he obviously loved. Like, they tried to establish when he was hanging out with his daughter with, tickle fights and stuff like that, because that's the supreme way to show that you care about your children, is to have a tickle fight.
I guess.
I feel like they use that a lot, like, in just movies across the way. Like, kind of sucks to get tickled. No more tickling. Doesn't feel that great. Kind of feels weird. And you're laughing even though you don't want to be laughing.
Yep.
It's involuntary. Cut it out.
Yeah, I don't know why. Some of it is, I'm like, have you guys ever, like, spoken to a child? Do you guys know what it's like to, like, be close to a child? Because I feel like you don't. Because that's not how that works. Like,
I'm too busy making movies. I don't have time to hang out with babies.
What? You guys, that's how you love your kid. You just tickle them, right?
Yeah.
That's...
They don't need to eat.
Yeah.
go to school, just tickle them.
You don't need to have, like, a talk with them about, whatever, or be interested in their interests. You just tickle them. That's it.
So they're all getting off the car or out of the bus, and of course they do like this kind of close shot of the steps of the bus, and they show everyone else running off, and then it gets to Janice, and when she steps off, you realize she's got a brace on her leg because she had the polio, and so she's got a paralyzed leg, and so she's got like a little cane, and she's got her brace on her leg, and it seems like it's a pretty recent thing, and she's not happy about it, and I felt really bad because the dad, Mr. Mullins, I keep calling him something Sullivan, Mr. Mullins, like, kind of looks at her, and then looks at the sister, and the sister's like, oh, don't worry, she won't be a burden, not like, what happened to that kid? He's just kind of like, is she gonna be able to pull her weight? Without even saying anything, he just kind of stares at her, and the sister, I guess, takes from that he's worried about it, and he doesn't correct her. He's not like, no, I was just thinking, that sucks. No, apparently he was just being like, I took in this kid who can't even walk that good.
Yeah, it didn't, I was sort of confused by that, and it made me not like him very much at the beginning, and then afterwards I was like, I don't see why he would have a problem with it, because it's not like the kids had to do chores or anything, really, like, that I saw. It was just sort of them living there and doing stuff and hanging out, so I was a little confused as to why he would be like, what's up with that? I don't know. Maybe it's because he knew. I don't know. I really don't know why. What that thought process was. I don't know.
Well, especially since, as we find out after they get into the house, and they're kind of like walking around and being like, "Oh, this place is so giant. It's great. Oh my god!" And then they get to the stairs, and they're about to like go upstairs and I guess see where their rooms and stuff are. The sister that is with them is Sister Charlotte, who's played by Stephanie Sigmund, is she's like, oh, is there any way that me and Janice can like have a room or something downstairs? Kind of being like, well, it's hard for her to go up and down the stairs because of her leg. And he kind of like just kind of stares at her for a second, kind of, I got this feeling of like, ugh, you said this wasn't going to be a burden. But I'm, again, like, inferring that because he doesn't say, like, hardly anything. But then he, like, turns and he's like, I installed this because my wife can't walk so good or whatever. And there's, like, a built-in, like, chair on the stairs that goes up and down. Like a mechanical chair. So it's no problem at all. And I don't know, I felt like having this thing, like, he built for his wife, and having it, like, be useful again and being able to help. I really wanted him to, like, be trying to connect with these kids. Like, even if he had come across creepy in that way, like, trying too hard would have endeared me more than him just being like, bleh. Why did I let these children in my house? But I don't know why, because I'm going to act like I hate it every second of the day.
Yeah, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. That was one of the major holes where I was like, what? You'd think that he would, I don't know. I guess it was just to kind of throw us off and make us wonder if, like, he and his wife were insidious or something. So, I don't know.
Yeah, because we don't see his wife for a while, and he's like, oh, our room's down here. My wife's not well. She had an accident. So she stays in her room most of the time. Which, I thought was kind of a good setup, just because then you're like, is she still there? Like, did she have an accident? Or is she just like a psycho type thing where it's just going to be like her mummy in there later?
Yeah, that was...
But, so they go upstairs and they're all looking at their rooms, and there's a room with 4 beds in it, and so the 2 oldest girls, Nancy and Carol, and then the 2 youngest girls, who they name them, but they don't, like, they're there, but they don't really do a whole lot. I think their names are Kate and Tierney.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, they're in the movie, but they don't really talk a whole lot. They're just kind of established as, like, the 2 younger girls, and that's kind of their thing. But I did think it was sweet that the 2 older girls, like, wanted to have a room with the 2 youngest, but they didn't make it seem like we want to, like, watch over them and take care of them. It just seemed like, we don't want a room with you 2. You gotta go find somewhere else to sleep, kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a little strange. I was like, what's wrong with them? Why do we not like half of them? Especially since, like, Linda was a little, like, I guess you could construe her as, like, a little obnoxious, but just because she's excitable. But otherwise, I was like, they're both just kids. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like, I don't know how old they were supposed to be, but I felt like they would have wanted to not room with the youngest kids. It would have made more sense if there had been like 4 girls that were older who didn't want to hang out with 2, prepubescent girls. Either way, they basically get banished to a creepy doll room, but on their way to it, Janice stops by a door that has like the height marks that you do when you're growing up and everything, and starts to try and open the door, and then Sad Dad like puts his hand on it, does like a little minor jump scare, being like, locked. It's always locked. Goodbye.
Don't go in there.
I know. I can't even remember.
Okay.
Maybe he did like then show them where the other room was, but it's like a creepy, like extra doll parts room with a bunk bed in it. So not as nice as the other, like very picturesque, like four poster beds and a nice window and all that stuff. But just to, kind of establish, here's the creepy room. Don't go in it. I know you're a young child and y'all always listen. Just don't ever go in it. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it.
So creepy.
And then I'm trying to remember. I think it then cuts to, I wish I had like taken notes, but we were in the theater. It's hard to take notes when you're in the theater. It's dark.
I feel like they cut to that night when they're at dinner. And,
oh, yeah.
And basically they're all sitting around, and the wife has like a bell that she rings from their bedroom, which is on the first floor. Mm-hmm. And it starts going off, and he's like, if you'll excuse me. And so he goes in and he opens the door, and you can sort of see, I can't remember if it's Carol or if it's Nancy that stands up and like kind of peeks in, and she says that you kind of can see just barely through, like there's like this kind of gauzy stuff on their bed.
Yeah, there's like a canopy.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that half of her face is covered by like this doll looking mask, and so the door closes, and the sister's like, Sister Charlotte's like, sit down, like, so rude.
Mm-hmm.
Does it cut to...
Well, I think it's the first night. Janice gets up, and if she hears something outside, or she's standing in her room at night, and a little note comes under the door that says, like, find me? I'm trying to remember. There were so many notes, but the gist of them was always like, find me, or help, or something. And so she opens the door, and she like goes out in the hallway, and then of course, one note like comes out from under the door to the room. I feel like this is gonna get very confusing because they go into this room that they're not supposed to go into so many times.
Oh my god, I know.
There's so many like different little scares that happen in it, and I'm trying to like keep them all in order. That I think in this one was the one where she goes in, and it's her first time in there, and like, it's obviously a little girl's room that's been kind of like frozen in time. There's a little tea set with some stuffed animals and a really creepy looking monkey doll. Just, all the accoutrements of like a creepy doll dead child room.
Yep.
And she goes over, and there's a dollhouse that it's been covered, and she pulls like the sheet off, and there's, it's the house that they're in. It's like a very intricately made dollhouse, which I'm wondering if he's a doll maker. Like, he must have made it, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
There's a doll in it that looks like Annabelle, the girl, and she's like looking in it, and a little door opens, and a key falls out, and she picks it up, and then looks around, and there's a door with a key on it, or a keyhole, and then she goes over and opens it up, because...
why not?
Yeah, I mean, there's this door over here. But then I also am just like, why did they put the key to this door in this dollhouse? Like, that's something that should be on your person at all times once you know what's in there.
Yep.
Like, that room should have just been boarded up just from the start. We'll get there. So she goes over, she opens it. As soon as she opens the door, having grown up, like, in an orphanage that's run by nuns and stuff, you'd think she would notice that the inside of the door and the inside of the room is papered with pages from the Bible, which is never a good sign.
And there's, like, a crucifix up on the wall.
Yes, good old crucifix. And then, of course, sitting in a chair is Annabelle, the doll, not the girl, but the doll.
Yeah, the doll.
Just looking... as creepy as ever, just kind of staring, not really doing anything. She, like, backs up, and she gets the sheet from the dollhouse, and she throws it on Annabelle, and...
Well, first she tries to close the door.
Oh, yeah, she tries to close the door.
And it opens. And then she tries to close the door and lock it, and it opens again. And then she's like, okay, well, this is fucking creepy. And so she takes the sheet from the dollhouse and throws it on Annabelle and just decides to, like, leave the room, I guess. That's when you see the sheet stand up and start walking.
Yeah, which was,
and like,
honestly, that was pretty creepy. I know, like, they do stuff like that in, like, Paranormal Activity and whatever, but it's just one of those practical effects that, like, you can't see it, and it's literally just, like, you know what's supposed to be under there, and I think that's what makes it creepy. Like, creepier than any goofy CGI or whatever, and of course she's panicking and, like, backing up, and it's walking and getting closer and closer, and there's scary music, and then it gets close enough, and, like, it's kind of stepping on the sheet as it walks, and so it pulls the sheet off, and you're expecting to see either Annabelle or, like, a demon or, you know, whatever you've been imagining is underneath it the entire time, and then there's just nothing.
It's just nothing.
At some point while she's in this room, towards the end, she looks out the window, and she sees the dad is, like, coming back from doing something outside, and he's got, like, a lantern, and he kind of stops, and he doesn't necessarily look up at her, but there's some kind of, like, acknowledgement that all of a sudden he's like, I gotta go check this room. And so it shows Janice, like, kind of, you know, hobbling to go get back to her room and get under the covers, and then it shows the door opening and the silhouette of the dad, like, looking in, I guess, to see if she's asleep.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was like, did he not go into the room and, like, make sure it was, like, locked and all that?
That's one of the things I just don't understand.
I mean, I guess it could have just locked it back up, and so he was like, oh, okay, nothing funny here, but I feel like after knowing what we know now that he knows, he would have, like, actually checked.
Yeah, well,
but maybe he was in
They
denial.
could have just kind of, to, like, heighten the mystery of, like, does he know that this thing is here? Was he involved in it? Like, you know, show him checking the room, like, you know, maybe trying to open the door and seeing that it's locked and, like, leaving, just to acknowledge that he knows. Because then it also gives more credence to this idea that, like, he knows how dangerous it is, because later on, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but when he realizes that the doll has been, like, let out, he, like, panics and, you know, goes to, like, try and take care of it. And I'm like, if he was that worried about it, why didn't he do something right away? Like, they don't show him really doing anything other just being like, don't go in that room. And despite the, like, dozen of times that they go in there, nothing ever happens.
Yeah, I felt bad because I was like, just because this room has been quiet for 12 years, it's just because it knows that there's nobody in the house that it can trick into letting it out. Like, of course, if you invite someone else in, it's going to be like, these dumbasses don't know what I'm up to. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to mess with them. So stupid. Like, that was one of the main issues I had, was I was like, you know, it's a fucking demon, and you still were like, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Ugh. And this is where it gets kind of confusing, because, like, all of the kids basically start having interactions with this doll/demon entity type thing, and, like, none of them are talking to each other about it. Everyone has this stuff going on, but they're all kind of, like, acting like stuff is normal, and instead of, like, trading notes on their various interactions with this spooky-ass demon, it just, I don't know. I, honest to God, do not remember the order of most of these, so I was just gonna kind of start going through the ones I remember. There's the one where the two older girls say that they're gonna play hide and seek with Linda, and Linda goes to hide in, like, a crawl space that's underneath the stairs, because that's always a great idea.
Yeah.
And that one was pretty creepy, because it kind of, this movie used a lot of stuff where, like, spaces would be, like, pitch black, and so you're waiting for something to come out, or you can, like, barely see something. And so it's like you are focusing on it a whole lot, and sometimes it result in, like, a jump scare, which aren't my favorite, but sometimes it just, like, kind of unnerved you, and that I really, really liked. But she goes into this crawl space, is sitting there, and there's Annabelle.
Yep.
Just sitting on a chair underneath there. I mean, I guess because all dolls looked, like, really shitty and scary at this point, like, maybe that's why they don't care. Because I feel like if I saw that now, I would just, like, shit my pants and leave the house immediately. But they're all just kind of like, huh, how did this get here? I guess I'll just keep hiding while I wait for them to seek me.
Yeah, but then I think she does a double take because she realizes she can see, like, the outline or the eyes of something behind Annabelle. And that's when it, like, yanks Annabelle in the chair backwards, and she screams and she runs out.
Yeah, she like kind of like bursts out right as like some of the other girls are coming in the house, and they're just like, "What are you doing?" And she's not like, "I just saw a fucking demon." She's just like, I thought I saw something. Okay. And then the two older girls are hanging out in their room, sitting on the floor with like a sheet over their head, and they've got a flashlight, and they're like, trying to tell spooky stories to scare themselves. I don't know if they think that like Ms. Mullins isn't real or something, but they kind of are making her into like this, kind of making fun of her, like not being very nice about it.
They were kind of shitty in general.
But, trying to scare each other by being like, Miss Mullins, like if, she'll call your name and you have to not go because if you look at her, you'll die or something. Like just kind of making up like little shitty stories about it. And of course, and they do this a lot in this movie, which is a tactic I like. I mean, it's not like very sophisticated, but having like something in the background obviously be like, you look at it because you're waiting for something to appear there. And so there's like a silhouette outside the blanket of the window in their bedroom. And so it's like, it's lit up. And so you're just waiting for something to walk across it. Of course, they start hearing the bell that Miss Mullins rings. And then you see like a figure walk in front of the window behind them. And then I can't remember like if it gets closer and it like pulls the sheet off and they see it or something. And of course, right when that happens, like they scream and they're scared. And I think the sister comes in and is like, "What are y'all doing? Like y'all should be asleep." And they're like, "Ms. Mullins was here." And I think the dad is there too. And he's like, "That's impossible. My wife can't walk upstairs inexplicably. Not gonna talk about it."
No more exposition.
We're saving that all for later, all at once.
In a 30-second, scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was one earlier in the thing that we didn't talk about, but when the sister is moving into her room, there's like a dumbwaiter that comes out in her room, and it like slowly opens behind her.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those where you're just like, nope.
What I didn't understand is how the, demon was able to, do stuff in the house before it was released. Like, it would do the stuff with the dumbwaiter, and it, made the note, and it did all of that stuff, and I was kind of like, why hasn't it been messing with them for the last 12 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so many things that, I feel like they could have explained in some way if they had just had, I don't know, they had a priest that came with them. He could have stayed, or have the sister, know a little bit more about, demonic possession to, somehow, throw out some factoids later about, all of us being there, it was probably provoked by, the presence of, a holy man and a nun and stuff like that. Or something, but they didn't do a good job of establishing the rules of what this demon can and cannot do. Because like you said, it was locked up, but somehow it's able to do all this kind of creepy stuff and lure her in there while supposedly being trapped in this Bible room.
Yeah. Because, it was still doing, semi-powerful things. You remember, we didn't talk about this, but the first time you sort of get this weird feeling when Janice is doing something is she's watching all of them play outside, all the other girls. You see the door. They basically are showing Janice's face, and then in the background,
oh, yeah,
you can kind of see the door open, and you see, the little girl Annabelle sitting in the corner, and then when she feels like a breeze or something, and Janice turns around, and her cane that she had left on the other side of the room is laying next to her.
Oh, yeah, which kind of, I was like, oh, is it trying to, win her over by being take your cane, go out and play. I'm a nice ghost.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so it can, project itself and move objects, but it's not free.
And it's literate.
Yeah, that was the other thing. There were just so many things where I was sort of I don't understand what the rules are. I definitely could see, maybe if it could move little things or if it could do certain stuff, but it was doing a lot. It was doing a lot before it was released.
Were there any other things interactions that it had before the big one with Janice in the middle?
Janice goes in there, finds the diary. Annabelle's sitting on the because remember she realizes that they had a daughter because they hadn't, said that or anything. She sees Annabelle and the doll together in a picture, and
oh yeah, well,
doesn't she? She takes the picture.
She does. Well, because the dad has gone off to, like, get groceries or go into town or something. And so when Ms. Mullins rings the bell, Sister Charlotte goes in to give her some water, and Janice kind of is, like, looking through and sees them and hears them talking about, there's a photo of Annabelle on Ms. Mullins' nightstand, and Sister Charlotte's like, oh, what a beautiful picture, and she's like, oh, that's my daughter, she's dead. She's like, what, a daughter? And then she sees a photo in the hallway of Annabelle sitting next to Annabelle the doll, and takes it, even though I'm like, this is, like, right in the hallway leading to their bedroom. You think they're not going to notice this, like, 8x10 of their daughter is...
It's just gone. It's fine.
Especially, you know, it's not like it's anything sensitive. It's not like it's their dead child or whatever. But I think that's, like, the last big one. Because then she's got the photo and she's, like, looking at it in the dark. And when it's in darkness, Annabelle's eyes, like, glow. The girl's eyes glow in the photo. So that's not creepy at all.
Yeah.
When do they go out to the barn? When they, like, first they go in and they're like, oh, look, here's a barn and it's got all this creepy doll stuff and it's got a scary scarecrow in it.
I don't remember. There were so many, like, little bits that are a little hard to remember.
Mm-hmm. But I guess that scene, the main point was just to establish that there's a scary scarecrow. And Carol looks at it and is, like, kind of creeped out by it, and everyone else is like, ooh, it's a man. I'm gonna pretend like he's saying something scandalous to me. But Carol's kind of like, no thank you.
Yeah.
It seems kind of like, this looks weird. Something's gonna happen. Foreshadowing.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, back to, like, the big, not the biggest confrontation, but a bigger confrontation, I guess. Janice and what's-her-face, Linda, her best friend, she's like, we're gonna go in this room and look. And I can't remember if they both see the girl or if she just finds the diary, and then Linda's like, this place is creepy, like, we need to leave. You know, having her one of her moments where I'm just like, yeah, we should all be like Linda and we should leave.
I think she shoots the doll with that little, like, wind-up gun, and then the doll's head moves at some point when they're not looking, and she's like, I'm gonna go. And Janice, I think at that point is like, thinks that the doll has the little girl's soul in it or something, because she wanted to read the diary, and I think she was thinking like, oh, she's just sad and I want to help her and blah blah blah. And it's like, oh honey, no, that's not what's happening, because she gets to, I think, the last page of the diary and it's like, I came home today, and that's, I think, when she sees this ghostly apparition of B in the window. She's like, you know, what's wrong? You want me to help you? Like, what do you need? And this was the goofiest part, was B turns around and her face gets all twisted and she goes, I want your soul.
It was so played out. I was just like, come on, like, that's the most demon-y thing. Like, let's not play into stereotypes of demons and just how much they want souls all the time.
Yum, 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 yum.
So, of course, she screams and starts, like, scrambling out, and it kind of, like, grabs her leg. And that was the one thing where, again, I was just like, when these things are happening, like, these kids and people are screaming and being like, help! Ah, there's a demon!
There's, like, 20 people in the house, and nobody hears it.
Linda had just left the room and knew creepy stuff was going on, but somehow went to her room and, like, fell to sleep instantaneously, the deepest, darkest sleep she's ever been in, and can't hear her friend screaming, because, you know, her friend Janice, like, runs out, and at this point there's, like, black, like, smoke is coming out and, like, trying to grab her, and she tries to run in her room, and the door, like, slams shut, and then she hops onto the little, like, conveyor seat on the stairs, and I'm just like, buckle up! Janice, he said it doesn't go unless you buckle up. Gotta be safe and buckle up. And she's like, well, I wanna go! And, you know, it's getting closer, and there's just all these scary noises, and this, like, the entire upper floor is, like, encased in darkness, which is super scary. And, of course, she, you know, remember she's got to buckle up, and then it takes her about halfway down.
Takes her back up the stairs slowly, and she's trying to get it to go back down, and then there's a long beat, and then it snatches her up, and she literally, like, goes up into the air.
But it's like, where could she go?
Because darkness.
She obviously goes, I guess, like, higher. There's no sound of her, like, crashing through the ceiling, and her screaming stops. And then it goes around and intentionally, like, pans to everybody in their beds sleeping and showing how quiet and nice it is.
Yep.
And I'm like, how'd y'all sleep through this girl being accosted by a demon? I swear, I know we said we like this movie, and we've spent the entire time being like, how did this happen? But it's hard. That's like half of horror movies is being like, how could that, how does this work?
I mean, you wouldn't have a movie if people made smart decisions, honestly.
And then it shows her shoe, like, falling into, like, the foyer, at the bottom of the stairs, and there's another kind of long beat, and then Janice falls from high up and kind of, like, rolls over and has, like, you know, some blood on her face, and you're like, oh, is she dead? Like, what happened? And then it cuts to, I don't know if it's a few days later or how long, like, if they took her to a hospital or what, but they bring her back, and now she's in a wheelchair, and it's kind of inferred, like, we think she might be paralyzed for good, so I don't know, like, if the fall was supposed to have broken her back. They're not very clear on it, and she's depressed because she's like, there's a demon here. I know everyone thinks I'm sad because I can't walk, but I'm mainly just sad because I'm living in a house with a demon in it, and no one believes me.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die in this house. Yep. So then she has some exposition with Linda where she's kind of like, you know, I felt like it was basically her saying goodbye because she was like, I'm gonna die here. Like, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna die. Like, clearly this demon wants me and it's gonna kill me. And that's what's gonna happen.
No, she tried so hard because, like, she tries to tell, you know, Sister Charlotte, which I'm not saying all people who are Catholic or cinematically Catholic, you know, have to take all, like, demon stuff seriously, but she straight up tells her, like, you know how you tell us you can sense, you know, God even though he's not there? Well, I sense something else and it's evil. And she's just like, no, that's just, you know, chin up kind of thing. Like, you know, having a good attitude will heal your depression and your broken back and legs. And she's just like, no, I mean, that part sucks, but I mean, there's a demon here. And she's just like, oh, well, I think that it's just the demon of you're feeling bad and you just need a new attitude.
Have you tried yoga? It could really help.
I literally can't, sister. I can't. I'm in a wheelchair.
Have you know what you should try?
Prayer.
There's this diet.
Chia seeds.
You eat only chia seeds and flax seeds.
Bird seeds.
And kale and bird seeds. And you grind them up in a blender and then you shove them up your ass. And that will help you. Also prayer. Yeah, I felt like every adult was in denial the whole movie, which was very frustrating, especially since half of them knew about the doll and knew there was a demon in the house. And I was just like, why are we all being so incredibly stupid? It's just very frustrating.
So they're having a little talk on the couch. And this was the one where Becca was talking about earlier. That was actually kind of sweet. Like, it was sad because they had made this pact earlier in the movie to be like, you know, if we get adopted, we have to get adopted together so we can be real sisters because we love each other. And, you know, it was kind of like very one-dimensional, but they have a part where she's like, no one's gonna want me. No one wants, like, a paralyzed kid. And Linda's like, well, I won't get adopted either. And she's like, no, you're gonna get adopted. And somehow they start talking about, like, how at their old orphanage they would, like, sneak into the pantry and eat the chocolate, and the father thought that they had rats, and they're kind of making fun of how the father would, like, pray and, like, ask for God to take these mice away. And it was just kind of, that part was kind of cute, because I feel like inside jokes do kind of work like that, where you just end up, like, repeating a lot of dialogue to each other over and over again in funny voices. Yep. But as soon as Linda leaves, they, like, switch dolls.
Yeah.
And be like, well, here, you have this one, and you can have mine. That way we'll always be together. And then Linda walks off, and she's like, I feel better. You know, we're friends. And Janice, like, lays down and starts crying. And it's just like, I'm gonna die.
I know. I felt so bad for Janice. Because she just, like, accepted her fate. And I was like, God, this is not fair.
And then I think the next day is when there's the big turn. And this one, they got me pretty good.
It's daylight. I did not expect it to happen in daylight.
They give you stuff during the daytime, and you're like, what's outside during the day? Sister Charlotte, like, kind of wheels Janice out and is like, no, sunshine is good for you. Now enjoy your chia seed magic sundae that I gave you. And
it's gonna fix all your problems.
And get some sunshine. And, like, she's a a trooper about it, and she's like, oh, it does kind of feel good to have some sun on my face and all that. And as soon as Sister Charlotte walks, like, out of frame, there's, like, a moment, and then all of a sudden she gets jostled really hard, and they play, like, a really ominous note. I mean, the other kids are, like, off playing within earshot, and then all of a sudden, someone is pushing Janice in her wheelchair towards the scary, like, doll barn where the scarecrow and stuff was earlier. No one can hear her. And it's really creepy because this was one of those, again, where, like, they show you, but they don't show you. Like, someone is clearly pushing it, and it's not like a bodiless entity. Like, they show it, and it looks like Sister Charlotte's, like, habit and her outfit and everything. But then when she tries to look up behind her, it's, like, eclipsed by sun, so you can't actually see her face. But it's obviously not Sister Charlotte, and they just, like, fling her into the barn. The door slams shut, and at this point, like, it just sucks because, like, she can't walk. She, had trouble with it before, and now she just can't walk, period. And I felt really bad because she's, like, super helpless at this point.
She still fought really hard, which was very impressive.
She did. And I don't even remember the full sequence, but it's basically her, like, kind of scrambling around trying to get away from this presence, this demon. I can't remember if you actually see it at this point, because I know you see part of it, because she gets knocked really hard against, like, some boards, and then she scrambles away and is underneath, like, kind of like a step, because it's like a multi-layer barn, or multi-level barn. At this part I really hated, because I hate crawling stuff, but it shows her kind of, like, scanning, and she thinks something is walking above her. She looks forward, and there's, like, this, it looks like a old dusty bag of potatoes or something. It just looked like a bag, and so I wasn't that scared of it. And then it's not a bag. It's a scary child demon, and it, like, scrambles at her. And it's a very quick, like, very fast sequence. Crawls on top of Janice's chest and, like, vomits black stuff into Janice's mouth. Which I feel like is pretty clearly, like, you've been possessed.
What's up?
And it was just, the crawling. I hate crawling stuff. And so I guess at this point they heard some kind of screaming. Like, not enough to come check on her before she was thrown into the barn, but enough to be like, nope. Where's Janice? And they come over, and they open the door. And they're like, Janice, what are you doing in here? And she's back in her little thing, her wheelchair, and she kind of turns around, and she's got that signature I've been possessed look, where she's kind of got, like, dark circles under her eyes and, like, no color in her lips. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm so excited to be here with y'all tonight.
I just couldn't get out of the barn. I got locked in.
And then her friend Linda, of course, looks at her and immediately is like, something's up. Which, I feel like they had to be pretty good friends. Like, if I had been possessed, do you think you'd be able to look into my beautiful brown eyes and tell immediately?
I feel like I would, because I feel like they'd be trying to do... There are just so many, like, weird little things that you do that I don't think the demon would know about unless it had been, like, watching you. And even if it did, I imagine it would be at the wrong beats. So I think I would be able to look at you and be like, something's not right. It might take me a little while, or I'd have to say something and you'd have to respond weird. And then I'd be like, are you possessed? Because, I mean, that's happened between Ryan and I before. You remember that time? I don't remember what he said, but I was like, are you Ryan?
Of course.
Are you sure?
Say something only Ryan would know.
Yeah, I said that. Tell me something only Ryan would know. Yeah, so do you think you could tell if I had been possessed?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, there's not anything about you that's, like, inherently demonic, so I'm not saying that, like, your behavior wouldn't be altered. I'm just wondering, like, I just can't think of a situation where I guess you would be somewhere where you would get possessed. Which would then be my downfall, because I would be like, Becca, we're not cool enough to get possessed. This isn't something that happens.
I am prime real estate. I do not go outside. People would not realize that I was possessed for a while.
But then that's the whole thing. What can it use you for? Because you don't ever go out. So if you started going out, that would probably be my tip-off. I'd be like, Demon, why are you taking my friend out to the club? You know she doesn't like to go clubbing.
You know she doesn't like lots of people.
What are you doing in this bar? Yeah. You know she hates the smell of cigarette smoke.
Why are you drinking? You know she doesn't like drinking. What if
You know she gets floored by like a mimosa and a half.
Yeah, if I take like 10 shots and I don't seem phased, you know that I'm possessed.
I don't know what kind of demon does this.
I don't
Just
know.
take your body for a ride.
Annabelle joined a cult, so I guess it wouldn't be that weird for...
But that seems kind of demon-esque.
Yeah, I guess going out and getting plastered isn't quite the same thing as joining a cult.
So, okay, it's obvious that something bad is going on. And so then it kind of switched from Janice being the main person to Linda being our, like, protagonist and kind of seeing it through her eyes. And, you know, I lose track of how many times these people go in this room, but she goes in the room and she hears her say something. Because I just remember they cut to her sitting in the doorway of her room and looking out into this pitch black hallway, and she's got her little, like, gun, and she's just shooting her little red ball, fishing for demons out in the hallway.
She catches one.
And yeah, that was really creepy. You start hearing stuff, and I guess it grabs it, and the string that's attached to the ball, like, goes up in the air, like, up by the ceiling, right outside the doorway, but there's nothing there. Like, I don't know, it's... As much as a lot of the movie, like, plot-wise and stuff kind of drove me crazy, the actual, like, scary parts, just individually...
were very scary.
Oh, very scary. And it's her basically, like, scrambling to the top bunk and hearing, like, footsteps. They used a lot of footsteps in this movie, which was also very scary, because just the sound of, like, someone, like, rushing up behind you as loud as they can. I feel like it's something you don't hear very often, and then when you do, you definitely panic. Like, if you're walking down the street and you hear footsteps behind you, never gonna not be creepy. And she, like, looks down between the wall and the bed, which, why? And, like, there are, like, footsteps on the floor, like, with pointy little toes, like, walking around. Stuff just gets real bad. She looks down, and Annabelle's down there, like, peeking up at her, and then, like, a black, spooky hand, like, pulls it in, and then somehow she's asleep. I don't get it, but somehow...
Yeah, she fell asleep. I was like, I would never sleep ever again.
How tired do you have to be to fall asleep when you know for a fact that there's a demon in the bed underneath you? Like...
Yeah.
I don't...
Your bunkmate's with a demon, and you just fall asleep? Like, okay. All right, Linda. That's fine.
It's a bad look, Linda. Ugh. Just didn't make sense. And then I think it's the next morning, I think, is when the dad goes and is talking to the mom. Ms. Mullins and Mr. Mullins are talking, and he's like, I think something's up. Like, I don't think that girl just fell. I think something threw her. Kind of, like, inferring finally that, like, they know about this doll and the weird stuff. And the mom's like, no, Samuel, just get to know the children. Like, you just need to embrace having people here. Like, that's it. And then I think he walks outside. He sees Linda, and she's sitting there and looking kind of freaked out. And he's like, you want to talk about it? And I was like, oh, we're finally going to see him, like, interacting with the girls and trying to, like, badly interact with them. But I'll take that over any of his, like, stoic Iceman bullshit. Like, I just wanted something, and it was there. And pretty much as soon as she, you know, opens up and is like, well, you know, I'm really sorry, but we went into your daughter's room, and he's like, you know about my daughter? And she's like, yeah, like, we saw her. And he's like, my daughter's been dead for a long time. And, like, kind of freaks out on her. And then
she's like, yeah, we know, but we found the doll. And he's like, the what? Excuse me? And she's like, yeah, the doll.
And he just, like, freaks out, and I'm like, you should have known, dude. Like, if you know the doll is bad news, I don't know why y'all just left it in that room and didn't have the key on your person, or didn't, like, plaster up that room. Like, don't leave a door for people to go in. Just get rid of it. But anyway, he storms into the house. He's got a crucifix. Oh, yeah, because he had a crucifix he had been working on for no good reason. And she's like, oh, that's nice. And I'm like, is he going to give it to her and be like, you want it?
Yeah, I was a little confused.
But
kids love crucifixes. I know about children.
He runs into the house, and he walks past the dining room. And, of course, there's Annabelle, the doll, at the dining room table. I can't remember, does he see Annabelle or see the demon? I think he sees the demon in the hallway, because he walks over to the doll, and, of course, there's a note, because, you know, ghosts love stationery, and it says, like, found you on it.
Yeah, and then Janice walks. She rolls up in her wheelchair and then stands up.
It.
and turns. And that's when she grows into the demon, and he starts saying stuff, and he's holding the crucifix, and then the demon just, like, starts breaking all of his fingers to make him drop it, and then just, like, murders him.
Basically hear all these, like, bones crunching and him being like, yeah, the sounds you make when you're being broken into, you know, a billion pieces.
A lot of pieces. Yeah.
I guess the other girls had, like, been off getting groceries because they get in, and Sister Charlotte hears the screaming and walks up and is like, oh, I'm gonna go check, girls. And she walks in, and he's hella dead. He's all gray and scary and dead. And so there goes one person who knows what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to, you know, like a hearse driving away, and, you know, them being like, all right, girls, time to go to bed. Like, this has been a bad day. I gotta go talk to Ms. Mullins. From here on out, it goes pretty fast. I think this was the part with the well.
Yeah, Janice is sleeping on the couch, and the doll is sitting there, and she's been hanging out with the doll, like, just holding it in her creepy little hands. And so Linda, like, sneaks up, steals the doll, runs outside. Like, as she's running, she starts hearing, like, footsteps, and then they get faster, and then it sounds like almost like wings are coming, and they're right behind her. And so she runs, she opens the well, she's about to throw it down, and Sister Charlotte's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I gotta get rid of this doll, but for some reason she keeps holding the doll. I was like, just fucking throw it. Just throw it. Just throw it in the well. Finally, she throws it in the well, and then, like, she doesn't hear a splash, and so I guess she's like, I better look down for some reason. And so then these gray hands start grabbing her and, like, pulling her in. Sister Charlotte grabs her, pulls her out. They close it.
They hear, like, stuff, like, still, like, baying to get out. So finally Sister Charlotte's on board and is like, oh no, there's some kind of... Who knew?
Who knew? Nobody warned me about this. I didn't see any weird, creepy stuff myself. It's fine. And then, so they're running back. They get in, and she's like, Janice, and I guess because they run into the living room, and she's like, Janice, get up. And she pulls back the covers, and there's Annabelle. It's just the doll. And she's like, we need to find Janice. And then I feel like...
She grabs the doll by, like, the throat, and she's like, I'm gonna go talk to Ms. Mullins. Y'all go find...
Janice. Yeah.
And get out of the house.
That's right.
And so she walks into Ms. Mullins' room. As soon as she walks in the doll, Ms. Mullins' like, no, get it away. I knew that it was trouble. I knew that the demon was back, or some stuff like that. Like, goes from being like, no, just hang out with the kids, it's nothing, to being like, I knew it was this doll.
All along, I never doubted it for a second.
It's just this stupidest, weirdest thing, and then launches into this big explanation for everything. And this is pretty much like, I feel like her little speech that she does here is in, like, that's what all the previews were. And that's why I was like, I knew the whole time that they weren't, like, in it to, like, feed these children to demons or whatever, but I just couldn't believe that that was literally all it was. I thought there would have been more, or it would have been in a different part of the movie. But she basically walks in, she takes off her Phantom of the Opera, like, face mask type thing, and shows that she's got, like, this big grisly wound on her face, and her eyes missing and stuff. And she's like, you know, when we lost our daughter, we would have done anything to get her back. We would have promised loyalty to any entity, which... I was like, so did they, like, sell their souls to Satan? She says something about, like, you know, more powerful than the devil himself, so I don't know if it's supposed to actually be Lucifer or what. It's just a lot of whatever. But they basically are like, oh, we started seeing, you know, like, ghostly apparitions of our daughter, and we were like, oh, this is really nice. And then it asked to go into the doll so it could be with us forever. And we were like, yeah, of course, you can go in the doll. We just want to have our daughter back in some way. Then I guess she's like, then we realized that it wasn't our daughter, it was something else. And basically caught on that it was just something kind of preying on their misery, which is really sad. But again, they hadn't built up these characters enough for me to really feel bad for them, other than just the general, like, of course I'm going to feel bad for someone whose kid is dead, and then thought they had some kind of way to deal with it, and then turns out that they just, you know, let loose a demon.
Yep.
Who's not going to feel bad about that?
Exactly. So, anyways, I guess she decides she's gonna confront the demon, which I was like, are you an idiot? And so she brings, like, a crucifix into the little girl's room, and or the demon's room, I guess. And
this is in the past.
Yeah, this is in the past. This is still in the exposition. And she walks in, and B, or whatever is pretending to be B, is sitting at her little table playing like Tea Party with Annabelle, and suddenly starts moving erratically and starts growing because I guess it sensed the crucifix, and it grows into this huge horrifying demon in a dress, and like in a little girl's dress, and it's super tall, and it like, I can't remember if I think she drops the crucifix, which I was like, good God, why are you being so stupid? And it like slashes her face and takes her eye, and I guess Samuel comes in at that point. He like had been out doing something, so he runs up and finds her.
Yeah, I don't know why it like didn't just
kill her
right then.
Not sure. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. Also wasn't sure why she couldn't walk anymore.
Yeah, I knew that it hit her face, but I didn't know like if she could walk, but she just didn't want to be seen like in public because she was disfigured. And that was just made up. But he also built the chair for her, so it would make sense. I don't know. Again, didn't really explain.
No.
They're like, okay, well, we've got this demon doll. What are we going to do with it? Not having half the trouble that they've had this whole movie. Apparently all you had to do was just take the doll and put it in a room covered with Bible verses and have a priest, like, throw some holy water on it and lock it, and you're fine. And then they were like, we wanted to bring these kids here as penance, but all we've done is just give it demon food.
Yep. We gave it exactly what it wanted.
Just, like, donate money to charity.
Yeah, for real.
Like, why in the world would you do this? And why, if you knew that it was, like, this unholy terror, why wouldn't you be more careful about where you left the key or something? Just, you figure of all people she would understand the gravity of the situation, but instead they were like, no, a key hidden in a dollhouse is good enough.
That's good.
Have we bring all these strangers in and don't really get them to trust us and make them kind of sneak around because we're unaccommodating.
I also didn't understand why, if it could move right on paper, move doors, move dumbwaiters, why it couldn't get the key itself and unlock the door. Like, it was
just strong enough to knock it out of that closet and have What's-Her-Face be too curious for her own good. It's all that extreme team Bible power of the things like radiating in on it. Yeah. I don't know. Like it was one of those things where I didn't understand why it was weak enough then that it could be trapped and put in there and kept under control for 12 years. But then as soon as these people show up, it's just open season.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
And that's what it is. So I can't remember why they leave Miss Mullins there. I think like they hear screaming and Charlotte like runs out because of course Janice, who can walk now, is just out causing trouble. She's got a knife.
Oh yeah, she's threatening them. Yeah, threatening the girls.
Because they go upstairs to find them. And she's like, oh, y'all found... I can't even remember her stupid if she had one-liners or what she said. But she's just like, you found me. And she's got a knife. And she like cuts one of them. They get away. And Sister Charlotte is like, y'all go outside and you know, call the police or do whatever. And I'm gonna go upstairs and get Janice. And then when she confronts Janice...
Charlotte goes in and she's holding her crucifix. And, like, I can't remember if Jan turns into the demon or what, but I remember they zoom in close on, like, I guess Sister Charlotte's, like, from, like, her belly up, and then she's slowly raising, and then you realize that she's floating in the air, and she gets slammed against the mirror and is knocked out. And that's, I think, when Tierney and Linda both flee the room.
Yeah, they run away. And the girls who are already outside are having their own bit of trouble because they try to get in a car to get away, but of course it will like kind of start, but it won't turn all the way. And while they're all freaking out and trying to get it running, the lights keep illuminating on the side of the barn where that spooky scarecrow was. And it kind of is like turning and looking, and Carol's looking at it and being like, guys, but they're too busy trying to turn the thing, and there's like a cool strobe effect, and you think that it's gonna like each time be closer, but finally one time it's just gone, and you're like, I wonder where it went. I don't even remember why. Like, they all get out of the car for some reason. I don't know if the demon showed up. I don't know. But somehow, the oldest girl, Nancy, ends up in the barn, and she, like, looks behind her, and she sees the door slam shut, and all the other girls are trying to open it, and you feel really bad, because she's like, guys, are y'all trying to open it? Are y'all trying to help? Hello?
Yeah, and it's just silent, and so you can tell she's like, oh, shit. And the scarecrow is, like, pinned against the wall, and then all of a sudden it starts turning into the demon, basically coming out of the scarecrow. And the lights start the light bulbs start unscrewing and, like, exploding. And by the last light, she's trying to get on a ladder to turn it back in. And doesn't it, like, she turns around and then it's right next to her. It's up on the ceiling, and it just, like, throws her down.
Mm-hmm. And it's her, like, scrambling around. Basically, I feel like this part, the threat of having it be totally black was the scariest part. Like, just waiting for it to be, like, pitch dark was way scarier than actually seeing the scarecrow or any of that. And she runs into, like, a side room, and she's hiding from it, and you can hear it, like, trying to bust down the door. And then there's a little jump scare because something behind her moves, but it's actually, like, a little flip window, and it's her friends being like, hey, it's me.
Let's go.
Get out.
Yeah.
And she jumps out. And so that little bit is over. And then it cuts back to inside the house. I'm trying to remember. I think it might have just been Linda. I think Tierney might have been outside with the other girls, because this is where Linda is trying to hide, and she gets in that dumbwaiter.
Yeah.
And is moving around. And you're like, oh, this is such a bad idea. Like, either the dumbwaiter's going to cut you in half, it's going to fall down, and you're going to die. Like, it's just a bad choice, Linda, and I'm sorry that you made it. I wish that you hadn't, but you're here now, and we're just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, and then
she lowers it down, and she's now in Ms. Mullen's bedroom.
Yeah. Oh wait, we forgot about the part where someone comes into Mrs. Mullen's bedroom. Charlotte came back? I think Charlotte comes back, and Mrs. Mullins has been, like, cut in half and then pinned to the wall. And there's blood on, like, her little porcelain mask thing. Anyways, so it's super gruesome. And so when Linda ends up in that room, you see that Mrs. Mullins is no longer on the wall, and there's a smear of blood on the ground. And then it's, like, dark, and then all of a sudden you see her, and she, like, starts scrambling towards Linda, and so Linda has to, like, close the dumbwaiter.
More crawling.
It was horrible. Ugh. That was a rough part. Like, she was killed in a really gruesome way, and then also just using her, like, reanimating her corpse to crawl at Linda was really frightening. So Linda goes back up the dumbwaiter, and it's like, well, the demon starts pulling her down, and you see its little gross black fingers that are all, like, spooky and long nails, and it's just so scary, and claws, and then she bops it with, I think, flashlight, and it lets go for a sec, and she keeps going up. She eventually gets out. I don't remember how all that works, but
which I honestly thought was a pretty smart move. I don't know why I would think it wouldn't work. Yeah. I mean, you hit a demon on the hands when it's trying to, like, pull something down. It's gonna hurt regardless, right?
I hope.
But I feel like I would have been like, no, they're impervious to that. And they'd be like, surprise, you could have hit me on my hand and I definitely would have let you go.
Yep.
I'm just like you. This is why I'm so mad and demonic, is because people just don't get to know me and find out more about me, and the fact that if you hit my hand with a flashlight that it's gonna hurt.
I have feelings too. Linda hides in the closet or something. The one that Annabelle was in. Annabelle's in it. And then I think Janice finds her, but it's right as Janice finds her that I guess Charlotte wakes up and she...
Well, because Janice has a knife.
Right.
And she pins her down and she's like, you said if one of us found a home, the other one was going to go there too. You know, no takesy backsies, and is going to, like, stab her. Charlotte, who at this point we don't know if she's alive or dead, pops up and grabs her, and I can't remember if she says something.
I think she says, like, I'm so sorry, or God forgive me, or something, because I think she feels guilty because she's basically sacrificing Janice. And so she throws her in there and closes the door, and then they knock a wardrobe over, and then, like, glass starts shaking, the whole house is shaking, and you can hear this screaming and banging, and it's really scary, and so I
honestly thought it was going to be like a Carrie house kind of situation, where, like, it all, like, just sunk down around it, but I guess not. But they all reconvene outside. Everybody within their little group is okay. The Mullins is not so much. Janice is still inside, and there's like a lot of screaming and scary noises, and then bright light flashes, and then like all the electricity, like, you know, the lights on the barn, everything nearby kind of like explodes, and then it is done. And it cuts to, I think, the next morning, and it shows like police looking through. And they open the little Bible room. The doll is there, but a little hole has been, like, blasted out towards, like, the bottom of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no sign of her. We've looked everywhere. How far could she get?
She's just a little girl. Yeah, okay.
Well, especially a little girl supposed to have, like, polio / be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know.
Yeah.
I guess reasonable that they would think she couldn't get very far, but she gone.
And then the father, I think, blesses the house, and he also cleanses the doll, and he's like, did not read the room, but he's like, they're like, well, what about the doll? And he's like, oh, it's just a doll now. You know, it was being used as a conduit for the demon, you know, so it's just a doll now. So which one of you wants it? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Burn it, please.
And then it cuts to Sister Charlotte and Linda on the bus, which I felt bad because I guess at this point does it mean, like, since they didn't have anywhere to stay, were they all going to be split up, or
I don't know,
or what? Like, it doesn't really say. But, you know, Sister Charlotte is just like, you know that wasn't Janice, and she's like, yeah, I know.
Lost her best friend. So sad.
Just kind of felt bad, and just kind of shows them, like, driving off, and then this was the part of the end where, if you've seen the other movies, I think it was good. I wonder what it would have been like if you haven't seen, like, the first Annabelle, if this part would be confusing or whatnot, but it does this kind of real short little thing.
It shows Janice masquerading as a little girl named Annabelle, and she's getting adopted by this nice, you know, family, and they give her a Raggedy Ann doll, which was a nice nod to the actual Annabelle doll, which is a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, which I think kind of, you see that and you're just like, how can anyone be scared of that?
I had one as a kid, so it's just very strange to imagine it being haunted. But anyways, so they adopt her, and then it's like 12 years later, and it shows basically Annabelle growing.
Like a photo.
Yeah,
say a photo of them, like, right after they adopted her, and then kind of like a photo progression, I guess, to show, like, here she is at, like, 15. Here she is at, you know, like, graduating. Here she is as, like, a young adult. And by the end, she looks really different. She has, like, brown hair.
Yeah.
Which I guess can happen, but I feel like if you have really blonde hair by the time you're, like, 11 or 12, would it go brown by the time you're an adult?
I mean, yeah, she had, like, blonde highlights more so, like, from being out in the sun, but when you're older, a lot of the time you aren't out in the sun that much, so I don't know. I don't think it would have been that dark. I think it would have been, like, a light brown, if brown at all, but
continuity.
Yeah. Anyways, so it cuts to parents, Mr. and Mrs. Higgins, sleeping, and I guess they hear a noise, and he gets up, and he's like, I think there's someone in the house, and she's like, well, just call the cops. He's like, I'm just gonna take a peek, and he peeks around the door, and his throat gets slashed, and then
she steps in, and she's like, hey, Mom.
Yep.
And then a creepy looking, like, 70s cult dude walks in behind her and basically kind of, like, pounces on the mom. And I think these are, like, the exact shots they used for Annabelle.
Yeah.
But it cuts to the shot of the main couple in the first Annabelle movie, the couple that was expecting a baby, and you see the light go out in the neighbor's house, and the guy being like, oh, did you hear something? And it starts playing. Because throughout the movie, they've been using the song, You Are My Sunshine. And kind of like look, it's an old-timey song, and we're going to make it sound creepy by playing it during creepy sequences. And they start playing that, and it shows him, like, the two houses side by side, which, and again, this is the exact same shot. So if you see the first Annabelle, it's him walking over, and if you've seen that one, then you know that he goes over and they get attacked. But I was just wondering, like, if you don't know that, would that last part have just been really weird?
Probably.
Or would you just be like, well, you have to go see the next one now? Like, is it good marketing? Or is it just kind of like the assumption that, like, if you're seeing this, then you've seen the first one?
Sadly, a lot of people don't do that, though. I mean, and Annabelle came out, it's been a minute, so it's kind of, I don't know, a lot of the, like, teenagers that would be seeing it now probably didn't see the original Annabelle. So I don't know. I guess maybe they'll go watch it. Who knows? Either that or they'll just be like, that end part didn't make any sense. And then not think about it anymore.
When we first walked out, I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed, but the more I've thought about it, I've been like, well, I liked it because I had a thought going into this movie where I was like, wasn't the first Annabelle movie already the origin story of Annabelle the doll?
Yeah.
Isn't that already it? But this is like, no, this is like the origin of the origin.
Yeah. And then
of Annabelle.
And then it made sense why when Annabelle, as a, young adult that's possessed, broke into the neighbor's house and whatever, it makes sense why she was like, I like your doll, because hadn't she been, the pregnant woman had been gifted the doll from like a thrift store or some sort of something or another? I don't remember what.
Her husband bought it for her, and I would need to rewatch it again, but I want to say she really wanted it because it looked like a doll she had when she was little, but it was limited edition or whatever, so I guess they did go into circulation.
Yeah.
That made more sense just because in that movie, I didn't understand why, in the beginning of that, like right in the beginning, Annabelle/Janice actually like cuts her own throat and like bleeds onto the doll, and then the doll, I guess, becomes like a conduit again. I just didn't understand. I was like, well, this other person was obviously like someone from like a cult who was brainwashed and killed her parents, which is very bad. That is very bad behavior. But I didn't get why that would then lead to the doll being, like, possessed again. But this makes it make more sense because Janice had already been possessed that whole time.
Yep.
But again, is there no one else she could have jumped into during those 12 years?
Yeah, I was like, so was the demon just, like, content to play house? I guess it was just like, this is fine. Whatever. Maybe it killed random kids and just never got caught. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, so it has this insatiable, like, need to scare the shit out of people for, like, 3 days. And then for 12 years, it's like, all right, well, that was a fun vacation. I mean, gotta save up my days. I'll really, like, splurge next time, though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
If you think about it too much, I feel like you can tear it apart, but
in general, it was a good movie. Like,
yeah. Oh, I found out, what's that called? Because I was talking to Jordan about it. I like how it was like, I have a duty as a sister to tell my sister Jordan that this movie is very scary, and I don't know if she can handle it because she gets scared. She really likes scary movies, but she gets very scared. And I felt like, despite the plot holes, this movie was very scary. And I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. And then I texted her today. She's like, yeah, I saw it last night. And I was like, oh no, I'm too late. She's already seen it. But she really liked it. And I mean, she's here today, so she's obviously okay. But she asked if I'd seen the after credits thing, because about halfway through the credits, it shows a close-up of Annabelle's face, and it plays the little, like, music box noise that they do in a lot of these Conjuring Annabelle movies. And, of course, you're, like, staring at it and waiting for her to do something. And right at the very end, she, like, kind of moves her head a little bit. And then it's done. And I was like, not impressed. Whatever. She moved her head. And then Jordan was like, yeah, but the other scene. And I'm like, what other scene? What do you mean? And apparently, at, like, the end of the credits, they show basically, like, a little teaser for the next movie, which is going to be about the nun.
Ah, yeah, okay. Because the nun makes an appearance in The Conjuring 2, and in this one very briefly, yeah.
They're looking at like a photo, and she's like, the dad's like, who's that person? And I haven't seen The Conjuring 2, so I thought that it was the demon popping up in the picture to look scary, but again, that's one of those things where if you haven't seen the other movies, does it get confusing when you put all these little Easter eggs in there? Because I feel like it's good if you can put it in there without confusing people who haven't seen it, but also delighting people who know what it is.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh god, it's been following Sister Charlotte. That's so fucking scary.
I hope she's in the next one I get. Because I really liked Sister Charlotte. I felt like she wasn't super fleshed out, but she was likable. Like, I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. At the end, when I thought she was going to get killed, I was like, oh, this sucks. Is this what it's like to care about if someone lives or dies?
Oh my god.
But, so I guess that's going to be their next one. I don't know if they've started filming or doing anything, but the next one's going to be about the nun.
What was the teaser? Like, what happened in the little scene?
I couldn't find, everything just said that it showed her, but Jordan said, I guess it was her, like, walking out of darkness. So, which I don't know, maybe it was like the pitch black of the credit scene and then she just walked out or something. But she said that it made it clear that it was in like Romania, so I don't know. I couldn't find like a YouTube video or anything of it. But it was pretty much just showing the nun. Which again, I was like, I had asked Becca, I was like, do you think the nun was the one who was pushing her? Or do you think it was just this demon?
It might have been.
Like masquerading as Charlotte, since it's apparently kind of following her or whatever. But so they're kind of like sprinkling it all in and trying to make it whatever. Like I feel like this one is held together for more movies versus like, I know James Wan did Insidious, which I liked the first one, but then kind of by like the second and third I was like, whatever, like I don't
yeah, I checked out.
I get it. I was like, this isn't whatever. I got a lot of his same kind of things though, like the things in Insidious that scared me, like the stuff like sort of like slightly out of frame or out of focus moving and doing that kind of stuff is what scares me more than seeing stuff like up close, like right in your face, because then it starts to just get kind of cartoonish. Like you see the demon face enough and you're like, oh, it's you.
It's you again. Yeah. So what would you give the overall? Did we do on a scale of 5 or 10? I don't remember. I think it was 5.
I think we did 5. No, I want to say it was spooky skeletons.
Yeah.
I think with this one, I would do... Oh, I feel like 4 is too generous for like all of the weird plot holes, but I was also like pretty scared. So I would say like 3 whole skeletons and then like a grab bag of skulls.
That's
like,
fair.
More hefty, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe like somewhere between a half and like a quarter skeletons worth by weight of skulls. What about you?
I'm gonna use a different metric of measurement.
Okay.
I think I would give it 3 full crucifixes.
Ooh.
And...
Upside down or right side up?
Upside down. And then... There was so much upside down cross, like, imagery in that movie. Like, their front door had, like, crosses at the bottom, but then upside down crosses at the top. And I was like, did they not see that? Is that... They were just like, this is a good design. We're Christian-fearing or God-fearing Christians or whatever, and I love to have an upside-down crucifix in my home.
Well, upside-down crucifix actually, and not to chomp on Geek Remix's flavor, because they were literally just talking about this in like a playthrough I watched,
really?
but I already knew it. But the upside-down crucifix, it's Peter's crucifix.
Oh.
So, like, it actually is like a very holy symbol. It's a sign of humility. Because when Peter was crucified, one of his disciples, he didn't want to be like Jesus and be crucified right side up. So to differentiate him, he asked to be crucified upside down.
Oh. Well, cool.
So I feel bad because it is like such a big like horror movie trope. And I guess like it can be done out of disrespect too. But it's actually not a bad symbol.
Oh, who knew? I didn't.
Well, now you know.
Now I know. Okay, well then it's just 3 regular crucifixes that aren't upside down. And 3 crucifixes and 4 sprinklings of holy water. That's what I'm going to give it.
That's such a weird metric.
I mean, that's how I feel. I don't know how to tell. I don't know what to tell you.
I can't tell you how to feel. I shouldn't be policing your metrics. Is it splash or is it like 4 full vials?
No, just splashes. Not 4 full vials. That'd be a lot. That'd be like, I fucking loved this movie.
Kicking up.
I want to bathe in it. But no, just 4 sprinkles.
There's some good looking horror movies coming up. Maybe we'll want to bathe in one of those.
Yeah, I hope so. We also need to watch Conjuring 2.
I know. I think it's on HBO, so I'll probably do that maybe while I'm working on my bathroom remodel. Watch some scary stuff.
Good plan.
That's what you should do when you're working on like mirrors and things like that, right?
Oh yeah.
Watch scary movies.
Yeah. It's time to think you're seeing stuff out of the corner of your eye in the mirror.
Definitely not a bad idea.
Definitely hug a bunch babies and demons that are masquerading as your dead daughter.
I know. Well, like, because Mark didn't see the movie, but today part of our bathroom remodels, we're taking out, like, we have one of those kind of, like, builder grade recessed medicine cabinet things, and I took it out, and we're about to cover it with drywall, and Mark was like, should we put something in there? and like seal it up like something spooky. And I was like, no, no, absolutely not. I literally just saw a movie where this happened and nothing good could come of it. Also, we don't have anything that scary. I was like, maybe we can hide like a tiny penis in the wall or something. Like a little penis gummy.
I would, you know what I suggest that you hide in there?
What?
You know what I think you should hide in there.
Do I?
It's something that's going to be a conduit for someone's spirit.
Is it Fei-Fei?
No.
My beloved stuffed bear?
No. Why do you think Fei-Fei's going to be a conduit for someone's spirit? Is that what you're going to come back in?
No, Mark, it really scares Mark.
Oh.
He thinks that it looks angry all the time, so he's worried that
it's possessed or a demon.
Yeah.
I think it would have killed one of us by now.
That's what I think. I think it's going to kill Mark.
Probably.
I've had it since I was a baby.
Yeah, I've seen it on many a slumber party, and it never tried to murder me, so I really think it's going to be fine. But I was going to say, I can't say it, because in case she listens, but I don't think she would listen, but I don't know. You know.
I don't know.
We were looking at it last night.
Okay, give me a second. We were looking at it last night.
She's never getting it back.
Oh, God.
That's what you should hide in there.
Okay, I'm going to leave that cryptic, because if this person is listening, I don't think that they have any idea that I have this one thing.
Yeah. Anyways.
This has been a mean-spirited prank.
You're welcome.
Get it?
Ah, so good.
Mean-spirited.
Not gonna lie, she definitely
yuck.
is not a nice person, so I don't care.
Ugh. Whatever, she's not listening.
Nope.
Well, this has been a cryptic, little...
aside. You're welcome.
Out of our episode. You can, please leave us some cool reviews. Follow us, subscribe on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We've got the YTube.
YouTube.
So that way, sometimes, if you don't have iTunes, you can't listen at work or whatever. Sometimes it's just nice to be able to listen on YTube. And of course, we're on Twitter. If you ever want to shout at us or just follow it to get updates when we do new episodes or if we're having any schedule changes or anything. It's Ghost Emoji Show, all one word, as is customary on
the Twitter. Yeah.
So, and we've got a couple other podcasts. We're actually doing a recording session for our little RPG podcast that we're doing tomorrow. It's called RPG Friends Club. It's a sci-fi Mass Effect tabletop thing that we're doing right now. See, Becca's in another one. We like nerdy stuff, so that's kind of all our other brands.
Mm-hmm.
She's in one called Embrace Eternity, and they talk about video games. They're covering Game of Thrones and stuff right now while that's going on, even though I'm sad that it's already halfway almost done.
Yeah.
But they do little good recaps of that. I think that's pretty much it. You still got your pins on sale. Got a couple left.
Yep. Did new pre-orders of Garrus and Liara. There's all of the Garrus Black Nickel is sold out. Almost all of the Shepherd pens are sold out. I think I have 18 left. Liara's still, there's a lot. So if you want a Liara, you don't have to worry about it.
Get your blueberry girlfriend.
Yep.
Wife.
Get that.
Your space blueberry.
That space wife and space husband.
This has been our episode. I think I said it last time, so if you want to take us out.
All right, so that's it. We'll see you next time in our next episode. So till then, stay spooky.